Hi, everyone, and welcome to Smart Franchising with Fransmart. We know you're used to hearing Dan Rowe, the powerhouse behind Fransmart. But this season, we're doing something a little different. It's the Fransmart Team Takeover. We've taken over Dan's mic because, honestly, we wanted in on the fun. We've been dying to talk to some of the franchisees we admire most, and this was our shot. Each episode, a member of the Fransmart team will sit down with a franchising powerhouse to swap stories, lessons, and insider tips from the field. Let's get into it. Welcome to Smart Franchising with Fransmart, Team Takeover.
Welcome to this special episode of Smart Franchising with Fransmart. My name is Samantha. I'm on the marketing team at Fransmart, and I will be your host today. We are here with Mitch Cohen. Mitch, thank you so much for joining me.
Samantha, thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here, and I understand this is the first time you're hosting, so I'm real happy to be part of that.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. So, Mitch, go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. I've been in franchising for about 43 years. I started right out of college as a manager of a Baskin-Robbins and became partners with the people I'm partners with today. So we've been partners in different franchise business all this time. Baskin-Robbins, Dunkin Donuts, South Philly Steak and Fries, Bananas, Nathan's Favorites Hot Dogs, currently now Jersey Mike Subs, and Solo Salon Studios. Solo Salon Studios is the first one that's out of the QSR space. So it's been an interesting ride over the last 18, almost 2 years with that brand and understanding our learnings we could take from the hospitality side and bring it over to a service side business. I also sit on the board of the International Franchise Association, the Multi-Unit Franchise Conference, which I'll be chairing this coming March in 2026. And I also sit on the board of the New York State Special Olympics.
Amazing. Thank you so much for telling us about your background. So you mentioned that you have gone pretty recently from food service into now you own salon suites. Tell me a little bit about what caused you to make that shift and how it's been going so far.
Sure. Being part of the Multi-Unit Franchise Advisory Council and the International Franchise Association, I really had a great opportunity to be introduced to all these different brands in both organizations. And being in the food service industry and my consulting business, who consults with many, many different brands, the service industry really kind of interests me. And in talking to different financial people, and they talked about the salon suite business, a couple of things stuck out, and which is why myself and my partners made the jump. One, it's very limited to almost no employees. So as everybody knows right now, the labor situation in different states is very difficult. So that was one appealing thing. The other appealing thing was that we're taking these beauty professionals outside of the salons and we're creating business people out of them, where it's actually life-changing for them to be in that business, because instead of paying commissions or renting a chair, they are now learning how to become their own business people, put money in the bank, making sure their appointments on time. And for very little money, they become business people, and we can change their lifestyle. I mean, just in that business alone, Samantha, quite honestly, they would, get paid, get tips. The money would go in their pocket. And as they were getting older in the business, they didn't really establish a credit rating for themselves. Now we could teach them how to put the money in the bank, set up a corporation, and they could go buy a car, or if they're getting married, they actually have the finances to help get that mortgage. So really exciting for us. It's been going great. We're getting ready to open our fourth store over the last 3 years. That hopefully will be open before the end of the year. Our occupancy rate is over 90%. And the feedback I get from the stylist and their clients is they really like going to these places because it's a built-in community and they like working there.
Yeah, it's really opening up a great opportunity on both ends. Like you said, it gives these beauty professionals the opportunity to build their own client base where they don't have somebody else dipping into their pockets and they're able to take full control over their business. And you said you have an occupancy rate of over 90%. That's really impressive. So tell me a little bit about how you go about finding people to rent out your suites and how you keep them long term.
So in that business, it's a lot of social media marketing, right? Our clients are the beauty professionals. They kind of live on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok or X or whatever it is. And they're able to, that's how they get their clients. So our lead generation is really based through social media. One of the things that I think attracts the beauty professionals, there's a handful of sweet businesses, but really attracts them to us is kind of the way we build our locations out, kind of more contemporary. It's upbeat, it's bright. And our suites are slightly bigger by definition of square footage that our competitors are using. So that's one way to attract them. The way we kind of maintain them and try to slow the turn, it's no different than having employees in my Jersey Mike's, right? I think you and I spoke a while ago. No matter what I do or my team does, we believe we're in people business. It's people first. People on my team, people are our customers, our clients at the solo in the studio business are people. So if you could put the people mind first and treat people the way that you would want to be treated, I know this sounds so cliche and so simple, but really that's what it's about, right? No matter whether you're in a relationship with a franchise or a franchisee relationship or relationship with your team members or the people that are leasing from us, it's all relationship based, right? And the best way to make relationships is to treat people with respect, get to know them. They're not just, hey, how are you? Walk by, learn about them. They feel cared about. They're going to stay. It's going to be their shop. And you're going to end up being, yes, you're not their boss in the salon business. And yes, you're really not their friend. But if they feel comfortable enough to stay and lease from you, they'll stay forever. There's no reason for them to leave.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not a cliche. It's such a backbone of really any business. And I love that you said that no matter what you're doing, it's a people business. And I remember last time we spoke, you said that I believe you bring them Jersey Mike's once a week, the people that rent out your salon suites. I love that.
Yeah. Just a quick story. And I think I told it to you when we were looking into this business, we met with somebody that was at a coffee competitor of ours at the time. We were just getting out of Dunkin brands as a franchisee. And what he said was, they're people. Think about this. How many people do you see in a fast service business at maybe an average ticket of $5? You bend over backwards, you make them happy. You might have 30, 34 beauty professionals. Just make them happy. They're your clients. It's the same ones every day. And we're lucky enough to have our Jersey Mike's as our other brand. So my partner makes sure every other week or so he's throwing a party in the break room with Jersey Mike subs or a cookie platter. And they appreciate that because they weren't getting that anywhere else.
Absolutely. So who do you think is easier to keep happy? Your customers at a quick service restaurant or your clients that you have at the salon suites?
Well, that's a great question. It's not who's easier because they're different, right? The salon suite people that they're coming in, that's their job and they're working there. We're giving them a great atmosphere. We're trying to build a community. We want to celebrate anniversaries, birthdays, anything great that's going on in their life. We want the whole community in that salon to kind of celebrate each other. The Jersey Mike's, it's more, people are coming in. They need to get in and out quicker. Sometimes they're not having a great day. This is like their break to make themselves happy. They're going to get some comfort food. So it's not which is easier. They're a little bit different. But at the end of the day, what do? We try, no matter which brand it is, we want to kill them with kindness. We want to make it their spot. We want them to leave happy. It doesn't matter what it is. And that's kind of what we've driven home in our community. Ever since I started work as a franchisee, that was been one of our key things to keeping our employees.
Absolutely. So what would you say to somebody who has spent their entire career in food and is now considering branching out into another type of franchise concept?
So just like anything else, when you first got into franchising, you did your due diligence on that brand or brands, the competitive brands. If you're stepping away from your comfort zone, right, which is whatever it is you did, even if it's service to QSR or hospitality, once you're stepping out of that comfort zone, you want to make sure that whatever brand you're looking at, that you're willing to get into this new relationship with this new brand. You want to make sure that they have the tools you need to be successful. And that if there's something that you can do as a multi-brand owner, where you can cut some expenses, utilize some of the same services, whether it's through the back of the house or training or facility office, you want to make sure there's a nice little fit there. But you have to be ready with a previous organization to make the jump. So you need to have the trust in the organization that you currently have. Because really, even though it's a franchise, you're starting a whole new business. So it's new learnings, it's new people, and you're going to take a lot of your time away from your existing network to get to that second brand. And then as you build a culture within your organization and the team strength and the people resources, getting to the third one, then it's more of a business decision where you can look at their financials and capabilities and things like that. You're still looking at your financials and the profitability of the second business, but it's more of a time management issue for you as a franchisee store owner if you don't have the back support from your first brand.
Yeah, for sure. And you're also going to be looking at different concepts that align with your evolving needs, because if somebody like you is currently operating different types of businesses, like you still have your Jersey Mikes, you're going to want to look for something that might be a little more hands-off, like the salon suites are. So how did you initially find out about Sola?
So, funny story. I happened to be at a convention the day before it started, talking to a friend of mine in the finance industry. We were sitting by the pool, actually, relaxing, trying to get our feet under us before the regular 3-day convention, 7 a.m. to God knows what time at night.
Oh, yeah.
And I was just asking him, like, what do you think's great? What's hot? What's not? And he said, you need to look at this salon studio business. He said, I know that we can finance these all day long because I see the numbers. He said, and the fact is, it's primarily hands off once you establish somebody to do your leasing. And it depends. You could put as much time into it as you want, but at some point, remember, you have the same 34 clients or so that are just, they come to work, and as long as the building's clean and maintenance is there. So I started looking into it, and I found a couple of brands. There are some very strong brands in the industry. I happened to be friendly at the time with the CEO of the brand that I picked. I really enjoyed meeting the executive team and going out and understanding how they worked with their franchisees. And remember, I think I might have said this once before to you, but I've definitely said it in other platforms. Franchising is a relationship. You're entering a 20-year contract. You're going to be there longer than most marriages last in the US, right? And so you really need to understand what it's like at the top and talk to other franchisees to see how that brand has interacted with them. And when you have a legacy brand, there's plenty of people to talk to understand how they transitioned, what kind of changes they made, who they are. And so I looked at that track record and ended up with Solo.
Yeah, I love that phrase that when you're entering into a franchise partnership, that is longer than most marriages will last. That is a huge commitment. And it's so important to, like you said, know what you're getting into, know you're getting in with somebody that you align with, and also do your checking, do your due diligence, talking to other people. All of that is so important. What do you think is the most important or few most important things in maintaining a long, healthy relationship between franchisee and franchisor?
So I really think it starts in the very, very beginning. Having the meeting first. Obviously, you're meeting with the development people first, and you go through your due diligence. You have to realize while they're looking at you, you should be looking at them. You go to your discovery day. That's a huge sign to look around the people that are there. But once you get past that point, speaking to executive members, field members, and asking the right questions, it can't all be about the top line because we're making our money off the bottom line, right? So you have that difference between the franchisor and franchisee. Top line is really important to franchisor. Bottom line is extremely important to franchisee. And a lot of franchisors always say, yeah, we're worried about your bottom line. And yes, they are, but because you're going to need the top line, right? But at the same time, there's that conversation starts. And I think, again, if you feel for whatever reason, the people you're talking to and the executive team doesn't give you that warm and fuzzy feeling, you need to take a step back and not just look at the numbers. The other thing I would look at is turnover in the organization. If there's a lot of churn within the franchisor's organization, that means there's a reason for that. Either they're not performing, or that relationship between the franchisee and the franchisor at the field level is not good, because nobody wants to go to work and be miserable, right? So if a field team member can't do their job or is completely being combative with the franchisees, there's a problem in the organization. We need to know what that is. We want to take a look at that before we make the leap. And my suggestion is, it starts on day one, to answer your question, and then you foster that throughout the whole time. So having franchisee involvement. So a quick example, we're having a convention coming up in October of this year, on the studio side, and they sent out the invites, and I called the franchisor, and I said, okay, tell me how I can help be part of this convention, but besides just showing up. And they were like, what? Like, you're actually calling and asking if you could do something at the convention? So that sets you apart. And it also, now they feel that we're building this relationship. So that's a recent example.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like that is a very key point. You want to have an active part in that relationship. You don't just want to skate along, calling them, asking how you can do more. But also, like you said, it starts day one at the discovery day. It's a two-way interview, really. You're learning about them and their practices and their business, and they're learning about you. So how do you think that potential franchisees that are looking into a business, how can they be prepared? What should they be asking? What should they be what should they be prepared for when coming into a discovery day to make sure that they are getting the information that they need?
So again, I think, and that's a really good question. It depends on where they are in their business acumen side of things. So the first thing is, who are we going to be working with? What field support are you going to be offering me? If I'm very green and I don't really know this business that I'm looking at, and I'm coming to a franchisor, sorry, because, our tagline is you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And that's what sold me into franchising as a system. I want to make sure there's the system, right? So a brand new person looking at a franchise really needs to be asking questions about support, operational support, marketing support, training support. It's got to be all about support, development support. I've never built a store before. How am I going to do this? How do you help me? Right. So you get the list of kind of the support. But if you're an experienced franchisee, the questions could be a little bit different because your support level might be different. So then we talk about, what are you doing for financials? What's your restaurant or whatever it is you're doing? If it's food, what does your development look like as far as new products and innovation? Do you have an innovation team? How many times you roll out new products? What does your marketing calendar look like? Is it a 12-month calendar, 18-month calendar? And then talking to franchisees all across the country in that brand. And so this is a point I really think, Samantha, that gets missed. Because I go to due diligence days, brand is all rosy and shiny, and it's my new penny that I might be investing in. And I take away that information, and then I don't talk to anybody else. You need to talk to the people that are boots on the ground. And a lot of times the franchisor development people say, well, in the back of our franchise agreement, there's a list of people you can call. I usually get out and get in my car, or if I'm at a meeting in a different state, and I usually go to the business. That business, I look at that business, I watch that business, I watch the team. And then I ask, is the owner in or the manager? And when I explain to them, I'm interested in investing in this business as a franchisee, but, in New York versus, say, Florida, you would be surprised on some of the great information, positive and negative, that you get from these franchisees. And so my suggestion would be, go to your discovery day, ask as many questions there, then hit the road and hit as many stores in that brand as you can and ask similar questions.
Yeah, absolutely. All great advice. And you want to go in the store and see how things are running, not on your discovery day. You want to go in on a random Tuesday when things are not as prim and proper, because when you go to a discovery day, they're going to have all of their ducks in a row. They're going to give you the best impression possible. So that is definitely good advice. And yeah, like you were saying, talk to other people. Just today, we're sending out a list of all of the franchisees that we have for a brand, their phone number, their email address, sending that to potential franchisees that are interested. And you can call and talk to any of these people. They're so willing to answer any questions that somebody would have.
Yeah, and I would say that's one thing that's so unique about the franchising as an industry, right? We can go to conferences and I could sit down next to another sub company and we will share insights and best practices or maybe something in marketing. It doesn't matter what your business is. And if you're next to a competitor, right? At the end of the day, we are just like a big franchise family. And hopefully you grow that family every time you go to a different meeting or a convention. Versus I've been to, say, the National Restaurant Show in Chicago. And if I'm at a table with a seafood restaurant and a different seafood restaurant, they're not talking, they might be talking about buying seafood, but they're not talking about what's happening in each individual shop or what's happening with, in our case, in franchising, what's happening with your franchisor. Franchisees are an open book if you give them the opportunity to share the information with you. Because every franchisee wants to see another franchisee succeed, especially if it's in your own brand, because my equity is based upon everybody else doing great. And so I want to help my fellow franchisees be as great as they can be so the value of our business continues to increase.
Yeah, for sure. And you're not in direct competition with each other a lot of the time because you have your own territories. And so there's no reason to not share that information. And when you have another store that's struggling, for example, if I were to go into a Jersey Mike's and I had a terrible experience, the customer service is bad, the food came out wrong, I'm going to say, oh, guess I don't like Jersey Mike's then. So that's going to affect everybody else around them. And you just want to share that knowledge. That is exactly, that's something very unique to the franchising world that I think people need to take full advantage of.
For sure.
So speaking of Jersey Mike's, I'm sure nobody's ever had that experience at one of your Jersey Mike's, but you've had a lot of success with that. So tell me a little bit about your journey with franchising for Jersey Mike's.
Yeah, I mean, again, very fortunate that I was part of both the IFA and multi-unit, became friendly with the director of development who had been telling me for almost 2 years, I'm a slow learner, that I should be a Jersey Mike's franchisee. And at the time we had 15 Dunkin' Donuts and Baskin Robbins combined in the Long Island market. And we weren't really sure that we needed another brand at that point. But we sold in 2016 our Dunkin' Baskins, and they were like the first or second phone call. We're like, okay, you sold your business. Now you can buy into us. We paused for a minute because I thought we were going to all retire. So we sold in July. By October, I was told by my wife, if I don't get a job, I better find a new house. I couldn't stay home anymore. So, just kidding. But anyway, she convinced me that being retired I just wasn't ready. Right. And so, we picked up the phone and we went to Jersey Mike's and we spoke to them, and we came in and we did a discovery day there. And one of the things, that Jersey Mike's has been really, really great at is operations. And looking at us, they asked the question, who's the guy behind the apron? Meaning who's going to be behind the counter? That's the guy we want to talk to. We want to make sure that guy is going to be the guy. And at the time it was me. And so we had a great conversation, but then I went back and I asked them, I said, so at the time I think they were just approaching 2,000 units, maybe even less. Like, what can we do? Again, starting the relationship early. What can we do with our experience and our team to help you grow the brand? Like, what besides just opening locations? And right there, we made a quick friendship. And so our journey's been great. We opened 4 stores the first year. COVID came right after that, so we were on a pause. We're going to be opening our 9th store at the end of this year. Obviously, Jersey Mike's has been sold to Blackstone. We're trying to work with the new CEO now to start, building up that relationship again, figuring out what is our next move. But our relationship's been great. They taught us a lot. I was and still am very philanthropic, and I think that's a huge part of our success. And so when we were at Dunkin Brands, my partner helped jumpstart their foundation. A year later, I took over, sat on the board, and chaired it for 12 years. And so coming in, there was that love for philanthropy that Jersey Mike's has with their monthly giving, and that I have, and still sitting on the board of Special Olympics in New York State. And so it was a great culture fit for us, and it was an easy transition. And by the way, I know it's a long-winded answer, and I apologize, but in Jersey Mike's, our retention level is very high. Also, turnover is, we have high school kids that go to college, but it's really very, very low. And part of that is we let them become part of the community too. We don't pick the charities. We'll go back to our team members and say, hey, we want to run a charitable promotion. Tell us what's closest to your heart. Let us talk to that organization. And so they bring us things that they need in their community that are important to them or their family. And we go out and try to raise money for them. And they're very engaged, and that keeps them engaged. And that shows that we care about them. And we're not doing it just because the brand said we had to do it.
So you go to your employees, ask them what their community needs, and you choose the charities that your store benefits based on those needs that they bring to you?
Correct. And we try to do that on a quarterly basis. Doesn't always work out that way, because once they pick the charity, whatever it is, organization, we have to then make something happen between the two of us. We can't just do it. So we work with that organization to make sure that, one, we're not giving money where 90% of it goes to G&A, right? We want to make sure 90% of it goes to the community. We have to align ourselves with how are they going to drive traffic into our stores, as well as we're going to be able to serve the community. So it takes a little bit of time, but we do try to do something once a quarter, except for the big day of giving in March. Every other year, the brand has signed on to a national charity. So next year, it'll be Special Olympics. They'll be the premier sponsor for the USA Games that are going to take place in Minnesota. Jersey Mike's will be. So our month of giving in March will revolve around Special Olympics. The next year after that, it'll be open to each franchisee's own needs within their community.
That's absolutely amazing that you do that. And I'm sure that we started off talking about employee retention. That really shows that you care about what's going on in your employees' lives and going on in their community. And it gives them skin in the game. They're not just, a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to just work to make somebody else money. They're working to contribute to their community. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And I know a lot of people want to support businesses that give back to their community whenever they can. And so that's not just helping with employee retention, that's also helping grow your business with your customers. But it can be a bit tricky to communicate that message the right way. So tell me a little bit about how you incorporate your giving back, your philanthropy into your store marketing so that it reaches the right way.
Yeah, so a couple of things that happen here when you're doing this. So like I said, we want to do a little background search with the organization. And part of the other thing that we're looking to try to do when we're doing that and having these conversations is say, how do you reach out to the community? Or is it digital? Do you have a program? Do you have how many people are actually affected by this cause? And I'll just take a food bank, for instance, how much is a meal cost? Today the prices are different, but I think the last time we did it for 12 cents, we could feed a child, right? So we can now go back to the store, having an understanding that, hey, if you're donating $1 and we're giving the whole thing, you're serving almost 8 children, you do the math and it's overwhelming. So that's the way we try to break everything down to communicate back to our guests. On a national level, that unfortunate circumstance that just happened in Dallas with the Texas with the camp, right? A lot of brands did some type of fundraising. we're raising money in New York for that tragedy because Jersey Mike's has stepped up to plate and said, franchisees, come on, let's rally behind our people in Texas. Franchisees down there, families down there. And so it's being communicated more on a national level. But when we do it on a local level, we want to bring that local charity in. So if it's a day, bring us your people are going to be granted a wish, say for Make-A-Wish or another organization. Let the guests see the impact we're making with your organization. And that's kind of how we try to market it and communicate it. But we work with them as a partner to help with the marketing as long as the dollars we're going to put it.
Yeah, that brings to mind Firehouse Subs also does a great job with that, because I know they'll have plaques or pictures of actual equipment that was donated from their roundup system that they do at the cash register.
Right. Yeah, they do it all year long, right? I mean, for them it's worked great in certain markets. It's been amazing because a lot of areas are all volunteer, firefighters. They're not like New York City where there's no volunteers or very few. It's all, it's a city job. So yeah, I mean, look, I just think being philanthropic, giving back because you want to give, not because you have to, comes back in so many different ways. People want to come work for you if you're part of the community. You can retain them, but it's a great way to recruit people. Say, hey, this is a charity. We're doing something for you. We saw you come to the event. Are you interested in a part-time job? And they're like, who would do? No one offers that out. Everybody, and that goes back to we're in the people business. Our customers are people. Our team members are people. Our stylists are people. Just let's take care of the people.
Absolutely. Uplifting your team members is one of the best investments somebody can make into their business. So tell me a little bit more about how you support your team members and your managers on a higher level.
So we kind of took a little bit from Jersey Mike's and a little bit of what we did in the past. But currently what we're doing is we're an open book with our management team. First thing is we review P&Ls with them on a monthly basis. We have weekly calls with them to review two of the main costs, right? Labor costs and food costs that they're in control of. But at the end of the month, they are getting a percentage of the profits before EBITDA, right? So they have our EBITDA number. They're going to get a percentage. So now they're invested in the business because instead of calling a locksmith to fix something that's simple, they don't want to spend the $300 on the locksmith because that becomes part of their money. So they're taking better care of the business. They're growing sales because just like I said before, top line drips down to the bottom line. They're getting percentage off the bottom line. So that's one way. I mean, the other things we do is we're invested in them and their family. We want to know about them, what's happening. At one point in time, we had a manager that needed a car, couldn't drive, couldn't get a car loan. One of my partners had a car that he was going to sell on the street and said, we'll give you the car, we'll register it to you, and you'll pay us as you go. So my partner could get a few bucks for it. Life-changing for them, right? I mean, he was going to have to get a ride to work every day or not work at all. Celebrating birthdays, anniversaries. Unfortunately, one of my employees' moms passed away a few months ago. She's an only child. She's now going to live with grandma. So we decided to put together some money and ship them some gift cards for different places to go to dinner. And again, it's just, open up your heart and be nice to your people. We try to work with the managers to say, give me your long-term dreams. If you had a white piece of paper, what would it be? Like, what is it that's going to just put you, on top of the hill? And then we try to achieve those goals along the way. We don't make any promises, but at least we know what they're thinking and we try to help them get there.
That's amazing. Yeah, because when you're working at a place like Jersey Mike's, for a lot of people and a lot of the teenagers that you work with, that's a stepping stone into a next phase of their life. And the fact that you're interested in that and that you are a partner in them flourishing in their work life and their personal life, helping with their family, I'm sure that's very important to them.
Yeah. I mean, even when we're doing recruiting, we'll go to the local high school and we'll meet with the guidance counselor and say, we're going to have an open house for employees. And that's okay. Yeah. You're a fast food place. No, we're not. We're going to take them on a journey. We're going to take them on a journey for, their career. We're going to show them how to get from one spot as a counter person and show them and teach them business acumen, teach them how to be socially responsible, teach them self-esteem, and get them to a point whether if they want to go to college, it's great. And if they don't, they'll be able to become business people in a small business. And that helps attract really good people to recruit. And it also changes the perception from the guidance counselor that we're not just a big business with a fancy name. We explain to them how we are a small business, even though we're franchising. And our goal is to make these people that come to work for us be successful down the road.
That's so valuable. Yeah, I love that. I can tell you really do business with heart. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So you also own a consulting business. So tell me a little bit about that.
Oh, thanks. So the name of the business is Performax Franchisees Advisors. It's owned and operated by franchisees. There's 3 of us. We created we're going on almost 7 years now. At a meeting, Tamara Kennedy from Taco John's, she's a franchisee, and Tom Baber, who's the CEO of Money Mailer and a franchisee. We were having lunch and we each said, we're helping this person do this and that person do that. And we just all looked at each other and said, wouldn't it be better if we just did it together? And so we put together this brand. We go out and we try to help. It started with, let's get underperforming franchisees back on brand and get them back to standards. And let's help brands, instead of exiting everybody when they're that or not caring about them, let's be that. And I hate to use the word fractional because before fractional was a word in the industry, we were just that support team to take some pressure off the field people to go out and help underperforming franchisees. And when I say help, I'm talking about us, the 3 of us going into a location and working side by side with them and hearing their stories, understanding why maybe they're not performing, and then be able to relate that to ourselves and what we did at times when we weren't performing. We weren't perfect. And that morphed into something a little different where we're working with brands now that are coming out of an emerging brand area. They're not quite sure they have the right standard operating procedures or their operations manual, which the attorney, or whoever, was written. It's 300 pages. How do we get it to a point where it's very executable and understandable for franchisees in the field? So we do that as well. Our first client was in the doggy daycare business, believe it or not. They were like, we're growing, but yet we don't even have a field team. Like we started as a husband and wife. What do we do? And no one was there to kind of steer them. And we were able to do that. They are now right to 100, almost to 100 locations, signed. And they'll probably be opening, I think, their 80th location before the end of the year. We might re-engage with them now because they've noticed that there's something that they're not strong at and they'd like us maybe to look at that. The last client we had, 1,300 unit franchisor, a lot of single brand operators. They didn't have the multi-unit mindset when they were selling their businesses. So they came to us. And one of the things we help them with is, how do you become a multi-unit operator from single unit operator to multi-unit operator? And we put together modules around that and webinars where we're working with franchisees that are now interested in growing, but didn't know what to do, which is one of the questions you had asked me, right? Like, how do we do this? And so those are things that we do. But to be honest with you, we're different than everybody else because it's franchisee to franchisee. We develop and implement and re-execute it if it's not right, and we do it ourselves. The first brand, they had 2, one of the first QSR brands had 2 locations. They're in Louisiana. We put together their standard operating procedures. We put together what we call Q cards. We opened 4 franchise units with their training staff and retrained everybody how to train people. And, we're not here for long term. We want to come in, get you up and running and get out. So it's really exciting, and it's kind of a new passion of mine. And we're not looking to take on 15 clients at a time. We take on one client at a time, and you get our services for that period of time.
Yeah, wow, that's incredibly valuable, that kind of personalized attention. And that is very exciting. That's a really cool venture. And I love the way that you came together with your three partners of all having the same idea and stronger together. So I'm glad you guys are doing that. So what is something that you see kind of over and over again, specifically with people that are going from single unit operators to multi-unit operators? What are some recurring issues that you're being brought in to fix?
So, I'm going to tell you there's two different things. One is, I touched on it earlier, business acumen. And a lot of brands, you get one unit, you're the one person working in that unit, or your wife is, or your spouse. And you're kind of living out of the checkbook the whole time, right? And you're not looking at building wealth. And then all of a sudden now you're like, oh, wait a second, I'm going to get a second unit. But you didn't put your financials together over a period of time, so they're ready to go for the bank. You're not really sure if you're making money because you're using your cash flow for your daily expenses, and you're trying to, depending on how you set up your tax system, you might be operating at a loss for a reason. But none of that works when you go to get financing. So you want to make sure you're setting up yourself for success on the financial side with very accurate bookkeeping records, ready to go at any time. And then the other part of it is people, right? Like I said before, you have to entrust and build your staff. And people are like, it's the chicken or the egg. No, not really. You can't get that second location and open it if you cannot have a great staff to leave behind, and somebody responsible, as you would be responsible as an owner, that understands that this business has to thrive and make money and maybe even be better than it is today. So you can go to the second one. When you get to the second one, we already talked about some of the questions that you have to ask. But just because you have, I'll use Jersey Mike's, just because Jersey Mike's is successful in the north part of town doesn't mean it's going to be successful in the south side of town unless it has all the right drivers to make it successful. So a lot of times people get carried away with, oh, this brand is great. I had a line out the door. I'm in it 6 months. I'm ready to get number two. I would say probably not a good time to get number two. Let's get through the honeymoon period. Let's make sure we're strong in people, strong in financials, and then let's go do our due diligence around the location. Because in our business, if you're feeding people, location matters. I don't think I could put a Jersey Mike's in a place where most people are eating alfalfa sprouts and healthy foods, right? It just doesn't work. So you have to be careful.
Yeah, 100%. So I know that you work with a lot of emerging brands in your consulting business, brands that might only have a few locations currently operating. What makes you comfortable working with certain emerging brands, and what is it about those brands that lets you know that they are going to be successful if they have the right operations in place?
Okay. So again, most of the emerging brands are with founders. And so what I want to make sure is that the founder is really open for advice. A lot of times they've got a great concept and they've operated their 1 or 2 stores with their family. And, somebody said, hey, this is great. You should franchise it. And then they start going out, they sell these franchises. And then if you ask them, what is your food cost on this particular item? They don't have an idea. So if they don't have an idea, there's no way the franchisee is ever going to have an idea. So if we come in and they say, we have everything, and we do our due diligence and we say, here are the 10 things you need to do before we can progress, and they're not open to suggestions or change, then I don't think they're ever going to be successful. The Big Mac was not an idea of Ray Kroc. It was an idea of a franchisee, right? And so you have to be open-minded and you have to be willing to change not everything, but slightly, so that you can get your franchisees on board and get them involved. And so to me, if I walk in and somebody's very rigid, and they have everything they need, but they just want us to go out and execute it for them, I would tell them that that's probably not a good fit. because one of the things we do, which I left out when we started talking, is we literally go in and do a due diligence of the brand that wants to hire us. We'll talk to everybody on the executive team. We'll talk to franchisees, and we'll go through a discovery day, and then we'll do a roll up, and we'll have a conversation with the executive team where we see there's opportunity on their side above and beyond what they're asking us to currently do. Because a lot of times they're asking us to do things because they think that's the problem. But if you peel back the onion a little bit, you could see if maybe there's something else that's causing that issue.
Right. Yeah. In the early stages, it's the founders are still very connected to everything that's going on in the business. And like you said, they might be an expert on their business and the few stores that they have that they're operating themselves, but they might need to do a significant mindset shift if they want to delve off into the franchising world. So what are some things that you work with founders specifically on with shifting that mindset?
So a couple of things, and it's funny because the people we're going to maybe re-engage with the brand, one of the things they did before we got there, and a lot of franchise founders do, is they start with friends and family, right, as their first franchisees. And those friends and family, one, are very well connected and have great access. And two, the franchise agreement might have been a little negotiated here and there, and everybody's got a different one. So one of the first things we say is, look, if you built a good business and you have a really good franchise agreement, it should sell itself. And so you don't need to start making concessions early, because those problems, that concession you made today will really impact you in 5 or 10 years whenever your franchise agreement's going to end, because they're going to need to be brought up to the current agreement. And they're going to look for, hey, you helped me out the first time. How come you're not doing it now? So that's one thing is, you read your agreement, you're comfortable with your agreement, stick with it, right? Don't make different agreements for different people so you could say you have 5 franchisees. That would be one of the biggest things. The other thing is, if you're in the food business and you don't have a innovation team or somebody helping you with innovation, that's going to be a problem. You cannot have a stagnant menu in this environment. You need to have a marketing where you're rolling out different products, new news, new excitement on a regular basis. But that has to be paired with, which we tell the founders all the time, the data behind it to make sure that you're not spending your franchisees' money, or the franchisees not spending money on things that don't sell. And then you get all nervous and you go, oh my God, that item didn't sell. It's been there 4 weeks. Let's roll out item number 2. And now I can't sell item number 1. And now number 2 comes over. And now the employees are completely mixed up because they don't know what item they're supposed to sell, right? So, those are things that we always look at and try to coach and counsel early on is, hey, take your time, take a deep breath. You're never going to get from 0 to 100 in a year. That's a mistake. You have to have this roadmap that says we're going to build and sell, in local markets first. We're going to make it strong, and then we're going to go to another state. We can't build in Florida. My 2 units are in Florida. They're doing great. I met this guy in Utah, and we're going to let him buy a franchise. Well, who's going to support him? So let's make sure our development team or the broker, whoever you're using, is looking at the map and building out from where you started instead of just all over the country. So those would be the 3 things that I would talk about.
Great. If there was one thing that you could say to all franchisors that they need to understand in order to help their franchisees, what would you say?
Keep it simple. Just keep it simple. If you're rolling out a new product, keep it simple. If you're rolling out a new marketing program, keep it simple. Understand most franchisees, especially if they're new to the business, are overwhelmed, right? They're worried that they got to pay the bills. The lights got to turn on. I got to show up to work. Sally didn't come in last night, so I'm working till 10 and I got to open in the morning. So whatever communications you have, whatever programs you want to put in place, think about it in a long term, like I said, 12 months, 18 months marketing program. Think about the end user. How are they going to implement whatever I'm asking them to do? And that's why I'm saying keep it simple. And then if you're rolling something out, if you can engage your franchisees early and ask for their help, to test it, to give you feedback, that would be go a long way into growing the relationship.
That's great advice. Thank you. All right. So one more on the flip side. What do you think is the most important thing for franchisees to understand to shift their mindset from being a smaller operator, maybe 1 or 2 locations, into being able to operate on a heavy multi-unit level?
Again, I think the mindset is, you got to be able to cut the cord. As a franchisee, your first location, that's your baby. It's like buying your first car. You're out there waxing it and shining it every day and making sure it's clean. By the time you get 10 cars down the road, somebody else is doing it, right? I don't do it as much. This business is a hands-on business. And naturally you want to be there because your livelihood and the amount of money that you've invested in it is huge. It could be everything you had. So to get to the next level, you have to be able to build up that team, build up the business, feel comfortable going home and putting your head on the pillow at night, knowing I've entrusted my business to somebody else who's going to take just as good care of it as I am. And as you start to build that team and build those relationships with those people, then you can say, okay, who from there is going to be the next me, right? So I got a mini me now in location 1. Who's going to be the next mini me in location 2? And how can I get them to get there and be better? So then I know now I have my support system already building for location number 2, and then continue to build from there.
100%. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me, Mitch. This was a great conversation. You left so many great nuggets of wisdom, so much great advice for franchisees and franchisors. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm glad that we were able to make the connection a few weeks ago. I love your company. I know what you guys do, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to share some of what I have. And hopefully we'll cross paths again for sure. Coming up in soon is, convention time. But if you ever need anything else, please feel free to reach out. I'm very happy to be here. And thank you again for considering me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning into this special edition of Smart Franchising with Fransmart. Don't forget to find us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Fransmart. And tune in next time. Thanks again. Talk to you soon.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to Smart Franchising with Fransmart. I'm your host, Dan Rowe. If you enjoyed today's episode, this podcast is only going to get better. Please like, comment, and subscribe to hear more from the most successful franchisors and franchisees, and we'll see you next time.